Hello and welcome back to another Slay the Spire 2 deck showcase. Once again, we are in Act 3 and are facing the final two bosses because we are on the Necrobinder at Ascension level 10. We'll be facing the test subject and the queen. The deck that we have put together today is, as far as Necrobinder decks go, fairly standard, in that we have a lot of Grave Wardens, try to do a lot of soul stuff, do some haunt stuff to deal some extra damage, and then also do a lot of doom. One interesting thing about the deck is that very early on in Act 1, we actually managed to pick up a Bury. And shortly thereafter, we ran into the event that allowed us to enchant this Bury with Slither, meaning that its cost is randomized from 0 to 3 every time we draw it. This, of course, makes Bury extremely usable and actually allowed us to steamroll a lot of the elites in Acts 1 and 2, which is why we were able to pick up quite a few relics along the way. Some of them very, very relevant, especially the ice cream to conserve energy between turns, the bag of preparation that helps us during the first turn, same with the lantern, which of course also synergizes with the ice cream. We also picked up the beating remnant, which might be very relevant for these last two boss fights here, because we might be able to simply tank a hit because we know we're only going to ever take 20. We also picked up the Forgotten Soul, which synergizes really well with the souls that we're shuffling into our deck. And we also have the Cloak Clasp. At the end of our turn, we gain 1 block for each card in our hand. And we usually tend to end our turns with quite a few cards in our hand. So this is also something to keep in mind. For our Ancient Relics, we picked up Greed early on, which allowed us to stock up on a lot of cards and then take a total of 4 elite fights in Act 1. Then we also picked up the Brightest Flame and upgraded it. That is why our HP is currently at 56, down from originally 73 after eating the Burdonis egg. And we also picked up 3 Apparitions in Act 3. With this deck, I feel like I am reasonably well equipped to take on these bosses, especially since we also have a Hidden Gem. And the Apparitions allow us to probably go a little longer in fights, and the Brightest Flame, we really don't have to worry about our max HP anymore, so this is really just free card draw and energy gain, which of course, especially with the ice cream, will be very useful. So let's see if we can beat these two bosses. All right. We love to have a Brightest Flame in our opening hand, so let's see what we can do here. I will start with a Grave Warden and another Grave Warden. We are going to give the test subject a lot of strength. Hopefully we're just going to draw into our apparitions so that we can just simply ignore the damage that is being dealt here. I think I'm also going to play the Severance. Now what is relevant here is Brightest Flame makes us lose an HP. And we also have the Centennial Puzzle, which makes us draw 3 cards. Therefore, Brightest Flame will actually be drawing us a total of 6 cards. So we are just going to refill our entire hand here. We drew into an Apparition, that is great. We also have a Fetch, so we're just going to draw a couple of cards here. Alright, we have a Scourge, so we are going to apply Doom here. Draw another Apparition. And we're just going to play both of these apparitions and then end our turn. We're going to lose the Defy. That is probably okay. The question is, do we want to upgrade this entire hand? I think that is probably okay. But we probably have a better hand fairly soon. All right, we are going to set up the Haunt. Then we're going to Soul. We're going to set up another Haunt. And here we are going to play the Hidden Gem. And we got, that is fantastic. So now our Bury has replay 2, meaning it will deal 189 damage. So that should help us defeat the test subject handily. So yeah, here we can just end the first phase, and we're just going to do that. All right. Going into phase 2. Here we have to be a little careful with our block, but with the Oblivion, We're definitely going to play the Invoke, but for now, let's draw some cards. Okay, we can block everything here with the Apparition, so we're just going to Invoke. We are going to play a Grave Warden to put a soul in there. Going to play the Apparition. And we are going to let this sphere etherealize. Taking 44 this turn. We can block a little bit with a negative pulse. But I think we're just going to start with the souls. We drew another Brightest Flame. That is great. So we can continue with that. I think I will use a soul here. I will use another soul. Okay, and we have the Bury, so that will end this combat. Alright, we will be going into phase 3. I will Bodyguard. I will Grave Warden. Unfortunately, we can't drain power to upgrade anything. We could upgrade this hand, but I think we probably don't need to do that. Alright, here the enemy is intangible, so we're going to have to work around that a little. We'll start by drawing some cards. We like to apply some Doom here, because that'll also let us play the Death's Door. Then, do we want to Grave Warden here? We're currently taking 33, so yeah, we probably want the souls in the deck more than we want the energy, so we're just going to do that. And I do have to remember that I have my Cloak Clasp. Alright, we have Hidden Gem. Yeah, Hidden Gem is probably just going to hit a soul, which is fine. That's a lot of card draw. But we can Finesse first. We're likely to get a soul out of the deck. And then we can Hidden Gem. We hit our fetch. That's probably the worst of these. We're really hoping to hit the Invoke, but that's probably okay. I'm going to play Severance here. And play some souls. We're definitely going to play the Invoke. Play another soul. We are going to fetch. Currently have 14 blocks, so we definitely need a little more. We're just going to play our souls, deal a lot of damage here. And then we can just Grave Warden, negative pulse. That's 46. Am I interested in any more of these? I don't think so. Right now, we'd rather conserve the energy to have it available on our next turn. But then we can, yeah, currently, unfortunately, we cannot bury. So, pretty bad luck that we drew it this turn. So I guess we are just gonna do some Oblivion things, which of course also work around the intangible. We have a Hidden Gem. I'm just gonna use that here. Okay, Severance is a good thing to hit. That's a lot of souls, and that's basically all we need to win this combat. So we're just gonna Invoke, and then probably just gonna end our turn here. Is it worth to deal 3 damage for 1? I don't think so. So, unfortunately, we're not going to be playing the Bury now, but I'm sure we can draw back into it, especially with the Severance and the Brightest Flame. Okay. We're going to start with a Finesse. Then we're going to Brightest Flame. We're going to play a Soul here. We have the Severance. So that is going to add 3 souls into our hand, so that's fine. Then we can play all of these souls, and that will just end this fight. Alright, so we were able to conserve both of our potions for the second boss fight. So, let's move on to the Queen. Alright, once again, a very, very, very good opening hand. We have Brightest Flame to refill our entire hand and gain all the energy. We have Hidden Gem, we have Oblivion. And we are going to take out the Torchhead Amalgam first. So we're going to Oblivion that. I will always Invoke, I think. That'll give us enough block for sure. So we are going to play the Death's Door. And then we're going to play the Brightest Flame to draw 6. We have an Apparition, which we are going to use because it's always going to just exhaust itself. Though if we don't need it, we might as well just let it go away. Instead, we can play the hidden gem. Oh, that is nice. Hitting a haunt here really helps us with all the soul shuffling. Now we just have to find it. Now, how much more do we want to do here? I would like a couple of souls in the deck, I think. So for that purpose, we are encouraged to play the Severance. I think I will do that here. And then I think, do we want to upgrade anything here? We could upgrade the Hidden Gem, the Severance, the Invoke, the Soul, or Finesse. I think that is okay. So we're going to drain power, Finesse Evoke, some good hits here. And then we're just going to put all of this away, because we do not need it to block all the incoming damage. Alright, we have to be careful because now our cards are bound. However, we are always going to play the Haunt with Replay 2. Unfortunately, a very bad draw here. So we're just going to play that. We're going to take a big hit here. And do we want to play the Fear? I think we're fine with just letting the Fear etherealize here. Alright, we have another Apparition and another Defend. We really want to draw into our souls. Unfortunately, all of our Grave Wardens were at the bottom. So we're not going to take any damage here. I probably want 2 turns of Apparition over the Haunt, honestly. So we're just going to play both of these. And then we're just going to pass our turn. Not take any damage here, also not take any damage this turn, which also lets us play our 2 Grave Wardens and a Negative Pulse. And now, hopefully, with the Souls and the Grave Wardens, we're going to be able to do a few things. So we're going to play a Grave Warden. A little sad that we can't play the Bury, but also right now, it's not actually doing enough. So we'd rather just play a lot of Souls here, I think. So we're just going to go chain some souls together. We have the Hidden Gem. That is nice. I don't think there's any reason to not play it right away. So let's go with that. Okay, we hit the other Haunt. If we hit it, that's going to be very, very useful. Unfortunately, we didn't. And we also didn't generate any Doom this turn. But that's okay. We're going to Defy. I'm going to drain power. We're blocking all of this damage, so there's no real reason to play any of these. So let's just end turn here. Okay, we definitely have to play the Severance. We need the souls. Let's go with some souls. We have to play the Finesse. And then we're going to play some more souls. At some point we might use the Blessing of the Forge to upgrade a couple of souls just to increase our draw. Right now we're just going to have to try to defend as much as possible. I think maybe here it is worth it to play the Blessing of the Forge to block all of this incoming damage, or at least as much of it as possible. So let's go with that. Then we're going to Grave Warden, Defend, Invoke, and Bodyguard. So that blocks most of the damage. And then here we could just play End of Days to kill the Amalgam before it can attack. Is there a chance that we're actually going to deal enough damage to kill it? Probably not. So I think I'm just going to actually start with the End of Days. Killing the Torchhead Amalgam. And then, do we want to... Yeah, we're going to use this turn to apply as much Doom as possible. So we're going to replay play the other Haunt. Now each of our souls will deal 36 damage to the Queen. And with that, probably we can pretty reliably kill her in a turn or two. Let's play the Brightest Flame. And then play a lot of souls here. Unfortunately, we redrew into our Oblivion that was still bound from last turn. So unfortunately we're not able to replay it here. And I'm also going to pass on replaying the End of Days, just too much energy, and we're also not going to play the Negative Pulse. We're just going to retain our energy for next turn. Our Stone Calendar also triggered, so that's a nice little boost. Let's play some Souls. Alright, our Bury is here. That'll help us finish off the Queen, but we're gonna Scourge. We're gonna Defy, and probably we can just block a little bit of damage here and just kill her. So we're gonna Bury, then we're gonna defend, and we're gonna take a substantial hit, but it doesn't matter. Alright, and so we have made it through Ascension level 10 with the Necrobinder, with what was definitely an interesting deck. There's nothing too special here except, of course, the Bury. Bury didn't really do a lot, of course, in the final battle. With replay, obviously, it's a fantastic card. I think there's still a lesson to be learned here, even though, of course, RNG was definitely on our side in this particular fight. And, of course, there's also a good amount of RNG involved in picking up the Bury and then getting it to Slither. But that being said, I think these are the types of interactions that you should sometimes go for, right? Bury is a fine card in and on itself. If you can generate some extra energy, of course, if you can pick up something like Ice Cream, but even if you pick up just something that gains you extra energy like Invoke, Neurosurge, or any of the other Necrobinder cards that gain you additional energy, Bury is just very, very good in like the later parts of Act 1 and all through Act 2, especially if you have things like Fear to apply Vulnerable. Then Bury suddenly deals over 90 damage, which is enough to end basically all elite fights in Act 1 and many elite fights in Act 2. And if you're already gaining additional energy, for example with the Invoke, drawing into Bury plus Fear is just often enough to end the combat. And then, of course, if you gain something like Brightest Flame and the Ice Cream, it doesn't really matter if it costs 4, you're still going to be able to cast it a lot. The Slither, of course, made it substantially easier. So that was a combo that definitely carried us to Act 1 and Act 2, at which point we, of course, were able to accumulate more relics, to then transition into a different strategy, because in Act 3, a single Bury just isn't enough to end the combat, so the card becomes far less impactful. And at that point, transitioning into something like a hidden gem strategy with like the classic coupling of Grave Wardens to generate souls, apparitions for survivability, strong block cards like Death's Door, plus things like Oblivion, Scourge, your negative pulses to end fights, definitely worked in this deck's favor. These strategies, right, like your Grave Wardens and everything, need some time to come online. And I think what you really need is something to tide you over until they do come online, right? Because your Haunt is not going to cut it in Act 1. There simply isn't, you simply won't be getting like enough Haunt and enough soul generation for Haunt to be a reliable strategy to make it past the bosses. And so you need something that has a little bit more of an oomph. And Bury definitely fits that bill. There's a couple of other cards that would also work in that slot. But I think it just goes to show how important it is to have a strategy in mind, not for the entire deck. So don't pick a card and then try to build your entire deck around it, but also pick some things that you know will fall off in the late game, but that will definitely carry you through the early game. Because being carried through the early game and then having like a semi-dead card in hand will still mean you are set up with a bunch more relics because you are able to take a bunch more elite fights, which then allows you to take more risks in Act 2 and 3, which will then also just make your deck a lot stronger in the long run. And that is, I think, how we managed to conquer the Spire here, with, of course, some added RNG, giving us Ice Cream, giving us Slither on our Bury, and of course a couple of other things. All of that being said, luck will of course only get you so far. And I think it's important to simply be able to switch strategies on the fly and to know, for example, when your cards will fall off and to know when you're going to have to adapt your deck to fit the challenges that lie ahead. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this little deck showcase. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below if you enjoyed this, and I will see you all next time in the Spire.